St. Vincent and the Grenadines. WEFM is SGG.
21 minutes on to 11 o'clock here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You're locked on to WEFM 99.9, the clean, fresh sound. And this is your It's Your Turn program. Remember, It's Your Turn is an interactive program. So the numbers to call are 457-9997 if you're calling from a local landline, 532-9997 if you're calling from a digital cell phone, or you can call us or send us a message on WhatsApp at 457-9997. The It's Your Turn program is being hosted by Mr. Cecil Ryan and Mr. Philbert John. Good morning to you, Cecil.
Good morning to you, Karen, and good morning to Philbert, and good morning to all our listeners on all the platforms across the radio stations. WEFM, of course, this is where the program originates, and Star FM and Garifuna Radio. Thank you very much for being with us this another Sunday morning, today being Sunday, April 26th. So it's good to be on with you another Sunday morning, and we invite your listenership wherever you are and however you can. We look forward for it. Pijan?
Yes, Cecil, thank you, and good morning, Kiran. Those listening to WEFM wherever you are on whatever platform. It's good to be back as we engage in another edition of Issue at Hand. And as usual, you could anticipate a lively discussion on various issues making the news this week, in the past week. Cecil?
Yes, Pijan, and there's been a lot of news in this past week. And in fact, today we don't have a feature guest. We don't have a guest as such. But we will want to invite everyone to be a guest in the sense that we have a set of audio extracts to play, and we're going to invite our listeners as we play them. We're going to invite our listeners to come in and comment, give their take on it, and see how we go from there. So basically, that's what we have lined up this morning, and it's seems as if it's going to be an exciting one. So all you folks out there, be part of the excitement this morning. It's your hand. Particularly want to extend a very warm welcome and greetings to the WEFM It's Your Hand family, but WEFM family in general, whichever program is your preference, on weekdays or on Sunday. Certainly this one, we would like you to, in fact, we are inviting you to be part of this family. And there are people who consider themselves already to be part of the It's Your Hand family. And so it's a special invitation to you this morning. Perhaps, Peter, one of these days we should have a formal induction, into the It's Your Hand family. Certainly, well, it's for the other WEFM program producers and announcers and so on, for themselves to induct people into their own family. In that way, we know you have a reliable and dependable listenership. Family supporting each other member. So as Sly and the Family Stone said, it's a family affairs. WEFM and certainly It's Your Turn, a family affair. So we greet all of you. But I need to take a time out to shout out our particular persons who we know are steadfast participants in the program, and just from a very distant, I almost say distant planet, but it's not a distant state in the United States. I want to give greetings to Kojo. Kojo, greetings. I hope you're doing well this morning. I know these days you're very relaxed because, like me, you have nothing to do. Is that so? Nah, that's not true. We always have things to do. Also, I want to greet those folks who are listening across the United States, other cities like Cady. I want to just greet you. out there in New York and elsewhere, broadly across the United States. We have a lot of listeners and fans over there. Also, folks who are listening in Canada, from east to west, Vancouver and in between, Edmonton, Calgary, Winnipeg. Also, we have many listeners in Toronto, so we greet you very warmly. And over in Montreal and even Ottawa, we have a lot of listeners across those places. And further east, we have listeners in St. John's and so on. Good morning to all of you and welcome to the program. We're happy to have you on board with us this morning. And on the other side of the Atlantic, we have to swim over or fly over and greet our friends there in the UK. Greetings to you. Last week, Weezy called us. We had a nice little chat, so we want to send greetings to him. I know he has a challenging decision to make, whether to come over for Vincy Mass or whatever. We hope that by then the airline prices would fall enough to enable the folks on both sides of the Atlantic who are coming for Vincy Mass to be able to take the trip down to Vincy. And if you're in the Caribbean, you can, it's rough. Traveling is rough, but it's worth it. Vincy Mass is so hot and spicy and explosive that, it's worth your coming. It's worth the sacrifice. So greetings to all of you. And we welcome you to Vincy Mass, and we welcome you, of course, to our program this morning. Be one in our listenership this morning, whether you're in Jamaica, Haiti, Cuba, Bahamas, Bermuda, whether you're in Dominica, St. Lucia, Antigua, Barbuda, Nevis, St. Kitts Nevis. We greet you very, very much in the BVI, Tortola. Good morning, and we welcome you to our program this morning. And we also have to greet our listeners in Barbados and St. Lucia and Grenada, Petit Martinique and Caracas. Good morning to you. And of course, Trinidad, Guyana, and elsewhere. All the folks who are listening to us. Good morning to you all, and we are wishing you a very pleasant Sunday. Pigeon, I noticed that our government has pledged $100,000 to the Cuban cause. I just want to, I'm sure you would join me in commending them and thank them for making this contribution to the Cuban people, as they said. Of course, we would want to say that it's really the Cuban government and people. We thank the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we appreciate that. And just one regret, though, it's not as much as Grenada's contribution, which is $500,000. But nonetheless, it's a good contribution, so we commend them. And I just want to, before I hand over in terms of the commendation, to say that the appeal continues. The SVG Cuba Friendship Society, they have embarked on an appeal fund. So it continues, and the number at the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is 130016. That's the number. So in case you're still ready and willing to make a contribution, still turn up and make a contribution. So yes, Peter, let me in terms of the contribution of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. No, I was just saying, your reaction to that.
Well, when I heard it, my mind ran on Grenada immediately. And I'm wondering about this such a difference in terms of a quantum between the two territories. But they will say we don't know the state of the government finances, so not knowing that, we perhaps have to just accept it. But it's commendable. It's commendable that effort was made to make a contribution of that quantum.
Yeah, Pigeon, on the front page of the Vincentian newspaper, it says controversial bill withdrawn temporarily. And then at the bottom it says, move to amend the Constitution blasted. And they have, in the first part, they have a picture of Prime Minister Friday, and then the bottom and under the second heading, they have former Prime Minister Gonzalez. I find that interesting. And on the back page is an issue to do with this alleged computer cleaning up, wiped clean. I find it an amusing issue in a way, but I find it unfortunate also that claims have been made without verification, before verification. It's unfortunate. And I was reading the story written by Kelvin Horn. And
Kenville.
Yes, Kenville, sorry, Kenville. So he has Minister Bramble having made a photo of Minister Bramble having made a statement in Parliament, or made the accusation in Parliament, and then a picture of former Consul General in New York saying that indications are that former Consul General Randy Luther McIntosh will not escape the reach of the investigation. Interesting. But in this story itself, there's a part in the story that I read, and now it's not coming to mind immediately. It's not coming immediately to mind, but I think he said that, let me just read it. The act is said to have been effected prior to the New Democratic Party taking office. That doesn't make a lot of sense. A foolishness. Because how could it take place prior? At that time, Randy McIntosh was still Consul General. So why would you do it while he's still working? I mean, why would he wipe the? I would imagine those are files that, if that were the case, files that he had to use on a daily basis. So anyway, the whole thing is nasty and senseless. But I noticed that former Consul General Randy McIntosh has put out a video statement on the thing, which he gave a very detailed account of what happened in the month that he was there prior to his leaving, and what he did under the supervision of Ambassador Gilchrist. I mean, it's interesting. But anyway, I'm not going to comment on it further. I don't know if you want to.
I just wondering, when are we going to begin the process of governing?
Well, I mean, broadly speaking.
Yeah, broadly speaking.
When the government is,
the issues that seem to be making you seem to be quite salacious, has nothing to do with the development of the country.
And the process of governance itself. Yeah.
I'm wondering, when are we going to start?
Yeah. Yeah, I hope it's sooner than later. Because in the meantime, I sense that people are complaining that not very much is happening in the country.
Very much seems to be happening.
Yeah, and that's not good. That's not good news at all.
And all the statements of accusations of.
That's all we hear from different members of government
and omissions of. Of certain activities in relation to government.
I mean, there may have been small things across the system, but they cannot measure up to a point where they take precedence over important governance activities. Cannot be, because governance is fundamental and important in the country. So why would you keep highlighting those minor things and leave the major things, not saying anything about the major things? That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't put you or the country in a good light. So, but I was going to say, I made contact with former Consul General McIntosh this morning. I wanted to commend him on the statement, and also to say to him that I hope it's not an empty statement he's making, because toward the end of it he gave some pointers. So I hope he's going to follow up on those pointers and clear his name. I also wanted to say to him that today it would have been good to hear from him directly in terms of his video release, but I didn't get to talk to him. He was at a gas station and he promised to call back, and we didn't get to talk. But sometime in the week, I want to reach out to him to invite him to come to a program so he could talk more directly on these things, on this particular issue. So maybe we'll try to reach him next week. In the meantime, Pijan, as usual.
Cecil, let me say that. Remember the present Minister of Foreign Affairs promised us a visit several months ago.
Well, yeah, because I had reached out to him.
Yes.
I think it was soon after the budget presentation.
So perhaps you could use the opportunity to share with us what he has to say.
Well, when I reached out to him, he said he was on his way to St. Kitts, to a meeting in St. Kitts, and he apologized for not being able to respond positively. I gather from what he had said, he would be willing. In fact, he himself said some other time, but I have not since reached out to him. So perhaps sometime.
Well, let us publicly declare that the invitation is still open.
Yeah.
He can contact us anytime.
Anytime. Yes. Okay. All right. So I want to begin our program formally, Pijan, by doing, as I've done in the past, this clip from Win Calendar. It was shared in the chat, as you know, and I took out a part of it. So I'm going to start with it and then see where we go from there.
From Kingstown, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In his closing to the parliamentary debate on the proposed National Development Bank, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Godwin Friday says the opposition's resistance to the project is a direct strike against the economic aspirations of ordinary Vincentians, specifically fisherfolk and small business owners. The Prime Minister did not mince words, describing the opposition's stance as displaying a quote-unquote stunning lack of imagination and a refusal to look towards, quote, a fresh approach for the country's future. He argued that the opposition's focus on past institutional failures prevents them from supporting a re-engineered financial strategy designed to put the people first. Prime Minister Friday maintained that the government's plan is to do things better by bringing various separate functions under one efficient roof. He dismissed the opposition's preference for maintaining 8 institutions as inefficient, stating that the NDB is the vehicle required to provide the strategic financing and entrepreneurship support that conventional lending institutions currently overlook.
I want to say, everything that I heard from the Honorable Leader of the Opposition display a stunning lack of imagination. That tells me this is what the people had in mind when they said, it's not just an election that you lose, it's a repudiation of everything that you stood for with respect to governance in this country. You can't govern based on simply everything that you saw in the past. You had a plan for the future. And that is what we bring to the table, Madam Speaker, a fresh approach, a new way of looking at things, more creativity, more diligence, hard work, and putting the people of this country first. And let the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines register this. Earlier.
Yeah, interesting insert from Win Calendar. You know, he does original thing. So that was the part he did on St. Vincent. But I want to read this now. You know, Pigeon, I don't know if you've read it, and I don't know if you know. In this past week here, in Jamaica, the University of the West Indies, UWI, celebrated Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. And this is what they had to say in that. And in fact, there's a citation, and this is what it is. I don't want to read it now. The UWI Regional Headquarters, Jamaica, WI, Friday, April 24, 2026. In a November 2025 reflection, UWI Emeritus Professor and Jamaica Chapter Principal Director of Transparency International, Trevor Monroe, praised Dr. the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves as a transformational statesman, saying, quote, "Geniuses like Gonsalves come only once in a lifetime," unquote. Monroe highlighted Gonsalves' visionary support for higher education and its impact on national development, noting that he pulled St. Vincent and the Grenadines from being the third poorest CARICOM country to 76 on the Human Development Index, with St. Vincent and the Grenadines now only 0.11 points from top-tier developing countries and positioned just behind Iran. The country is on a trajectory towards first world status by 2040, with a goal of one university graduate per household by 2030. Monroe credited Gonsalves for remarkable developmental progress and for asserting sovereignty through measured advancement. The University of the West Indies, the UE, announces a historic honor in celebration of this respected Caribbean leader, scholar, and alumnus. This decision was confirmed at a special meeting of the University Council on April 17, 2026, and commends Dr. Gonsalves' 6 decades of service, scholarship, and leadership across the region. To appreciate the significance of this honor, it helps to look back at Dr. Gonsalves' journey with the University of the West Indies, which began as an undergraduate student leader. Serving as president of the Guild of Students, he played a key role in historic campaigns, including the call to reverse the regional government's stance on scholar Walter Rodney. He graduated with a distinction in economics in 1969, then pursued advanced studies in East Africa and Manchester, earning his PhD before returning to the UWI as a lecturer in political science. He taught at both Mona and the Caveville campuses, shaping generations of Caribbean thinkers. His most enduring impact, however, has been in politics. As Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, he served 5 consecutive terms, the longest in the Caribbean history, before continuing as opposition leader after 2025. This latest recognition continues a tradition of the regional university of honoring alumni who have shaped Caribbean development. Tributes to past honorees include P.J. Patterson, Owen Arthur, Edward Siaga, Michael Manley, Bruce Golden, Portia Sims Miller, and Sir Oskin Sandiford. Oskin Sandiford, not kind, Oskin Sandiford. All reflect the university's belief in higher education as a foundation for leadership and nation building. The honor for Dr. Gonzalez, however, is unprecedented in both symbolism and practicality. When approached about the university's intention, he humbly requested that no building or center be named after him. So instead, the UE has chosen to dedicate a research scope specifically to development, sovereignty, and education in his honor. Building on this unique tribute, a Center for Public Policy and Governance at Cave Hill campus will conduct research in the areas of Dr. Gonzalez's long academic interests, such as regional integration, decolonization, and sovereignty. Vice Chancellor, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, praised Dr. Gonzalez's fearless leadership, commitment to Caribbean sovereignty, and lifelong support for higher education. Quote, "It is only appropriate that we honor him in this way, befitting him, and having this defined intellectual discourse in development and sovereignty aligned with Dr. Gonzalez at the UE." That's it. Very powerful statement as captured in this citation from the University of West Indies. Very fitting, of course.
I don't know if it is an omission, but I didn't see much reference to Dr. Gonzalez's own contribution to the UWA students in terms of his policies, the policies he put in place to widen access to UWA, with Vincentian students in particular.
Okay, I didn't see that either.
I think there should be some reference to that.
Except in the statement, reference is made to the commitment at the time when he was Prime Minister, commitment to having a university graduate.
Okay, that's
by
the closest.
2030. That's the closest. Yeah. But they didn't put out other details into that. But yes, it's
I think also of note is the refusal to have anything named after him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in our lifetime, I don't think we've had anybody of this stature.
Mm-hmm. Well, Trevor Munro himself, Dr. Trevor Munro himself, a Rhodes Scholar, by the way, he himself said that in the piece that the first part of the statement, he's a genius, which geniuses come only once in a life, So he has said it. Pigeon, I thought we may wish to pause for a moment and have other people commented, in as much as I played the first clip where Prime Minister Friday was basically saying that Dr. Gonzalez is unimaginative and some of the things he said in that clip. And now this piece from the University of West Indies. So it'd be good to have some reaction from people who heard those two, the audio clip, and the reading of that citation. So I'm going to allow people who are listening to take it out from the 457-9997 is the number if you want to respond to the audio clip and what I just read. We invite you to do so. For a few minutes, if you didn't hear from me, we would go on with the rest of the program. But yes, I thought that citation was powerful in terms of putting in correct perspective. The person who is Ralph Gonzalez and his contribution to Caribbean life and living, certainly in the leadership context of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That would be good to hear from people. 457-9997 is the number to call. You can also send us a WhatsApp message and make your contribution through the WhatsApp. All right, so while people might be thinking of calling Pigeon, I think I want to play some other clips. As we said at the very beginning, a lot of things newsworthy happening this past week, and it'd be good to reflect on some of them. So in such a reflection, though, I just want to play some clips that I was able to extract and put together and have people respond to those clips. I want to play the first one. The first one is where a journalist from Grenada, we have a call, so Peter will take the call. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Cecil. This is Lance Chapman here again.
Yeah, Lance, morning to you.
I understand your devotion to our political system, and I appreciate it, and I think your education and all that is wonderful. And the one thing we're missing at today's International Property Day, IP Day, internationally. Now, the reason why we have IP Day is because the creative sector is apparently one of the most important sectors in human creation. You hear the word human creation. And here in St. Vincent, we make light of intellectual property, although we have such an alarming and enthusiastic bunch of creators here who manufacture such wonderful music that manages to encompass all of the Caribbean and a lot of the international markets. Yet here, it's a kind of iffy situation if you're thinking about creativity in the sector of music. And I would just like to say that as the director for music rights, that I am hoping that we move forward and give the creators their due, because we can add a lot to our gross, we call it domestic product.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
He's gone. I thought he was going to make any further point. Okay. But he's correct. I was hoping that he would make a suggestion about him or others in his group might want to, as we lead up to Carnival, may want to spare the discussion on that. So Lance, I know you're continuing to listen, so perhaps you can talk about that sometime in the future. But you're correct. And I myself didn't recognize he said IP Day. He's calling back, so let's take the call. Hi, Lance.
Well, Cecil, this is Lance.
Oh, sorry. This is one Lance with a different Lance. This is Lance Ford. Actually, I thought the number was the same. Good morning to you and welcome. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
And greetings to your listeners over there. Cecil, I'll be brief.
Well, I don't want you to be brief necessarily, except I have to say to you, I have other clips to juxtapose. So I would want your comments.
Yes, I'd rather, but I can't allow you to go on without responding.
Fair enough.
The honor that was conferred on Dr. Gonzalez. I don't think there's anyone who will contest whether or not he's deserving of it. However, I have a very strong disagreement with Dr. Gonzalez on an issue, though. I think an honor to Dr. Gonzalez is an honor to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And while I understand the point that he makes about not having any edifice named after him, I don't agree with it. Maybe locally I will go along with that. and more so when he was head of government. But Philbert, you studied at Mona. I think you were in the arts faculty. And you will understand that Mona campus is such a large geographical area. And the institution and all that is included in that is even larger. And I think the naming of a physical monument, a building, something in honor of Dr. Gonsalves is an honor of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I think Dr. Gonsalves ought to put the country ahead in this area and allow on campus a building, whatever the university choose. He does not have any say in it. It's not he making the decision. Allow it to be named so that whichever faculty you're in at Mona, whether you're in arts, you're in SOSI, NATSI, medicine, once you're on campus, you will become acquainted with this edifice, with this name. We have them on campus. They're there on campus. And so persons from around the world who visit the campus can at least be acquainted with Dr. Gonsalves and the work that he has done for St. Vincent and the Grenadines and for the Caribbean. Pigeon, I often made the point, it's not easy for somebody from these islands to go to Mona and become president of the guild. It's not an easy feat. Mm-hmm. Even today, and you can imagine in the 1960s, when Jamaicans did not know about St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And that is the start that Dr. Gonsalves came from. Something I note again in the presentation, which I knew before. Dr. Gonsalves' basic tertiary education was built on a degree in economics. Mm-hmm. So even though very often we refer and we speak about him in terms of his work in government, meaning the area of government, the field of government, the study of government, public administration included. Even very often that's what we speak about. It is important to note that Dr. Gonsalves' first degree was in economics. And you can see that in his work. In terms of gentlemen, sometimes my neighbor probably just think I am crazy. Maybe I am. I don't know. No. I often say there are more people outside of the mental health services who are crazy than who are inside. But sometimes I just have to laugh. Dr. Gonsalves, unimaginative. You can imagine that?
Well, Lansford, I played the actual recording, eh? So
I say no more. I mean, you can just take the Rabuka Bridge as a physical point of departure and talk about being unimaginative. That's all I was saying now.
Lansford, I don't know if you could comment on this. Dr. Gonsalves himself said that while he is alive, he doesn't want any edifice or anything named after him.
I heard that.
So how would you respond to that?
I have to disagree. That's something I disagree with him.
Okay.
I know it is him, and we have to respect his views about himself. But in this case, the naming of a physical something on Mona campus, the headquarters of this top-class world university, is more than Dr. Gonsalves.
And just to remind our listeners, Lansford, UWI is in the top 5% of world universities.
Well, I think it's even closer to the top than that now, Cecil, and that's why it's a world-class university, and that Mona campus attracts persons from around the world. You when you go there, you meet lecturers from across all the continents. I really wish that I understand the point, and I know the university I should not do otherwise if he insists. But I believe Dr. Gonsalves should reconsider and allow something to be named after him.
But in support of your position, I just want to say that I attended York University. I remember there, the main building was Ross. It was called Ross. Still is called Ross Building. And then in that building, you have a whole set of lecture rooms, like Stedman Lecture Hall. You had Hunters College. You had Stone College. You had a whole set of different names. I believe these are people who are associated with the growth and expansion of that university. So in that sense, even if he may not want to have something in St. Vincent or even a building, you can. There are programs and I think that buildings, sections of buildings, of a particular building should be named after him. The contribution.
I think he has agreed to a program of study, a broad area of which is good.
But more than that.
My point is that it's not all the students, the visitors to UWI Mona will become aware of that program, because sometimes you go there, you go to NATSA and you're not studying what is happening across campus. At Mona, there's several, and Pigeon can talk about this. There's several buildings that are named in honor of persons who have served the university in the past, the halls of residence. Not blocks, the entire hall. In almost every case is named after somebody who had served the university previously. And I think Dr. Gonsalves has done enough, more than enough, for his name to be present on a physical asset at the University of the West Indies. I want to publicly say that I disagree with his stance on this. And he having, and he may say, well, Cato had died, but he having name buildings after persons living and dead. I think he should allow Vincent this one. I think he should see it as a case of St. Vincent. Dr. Gonsalves, if you're listening, as you often do, I humbly disagree with you on this one, and I ask, please, that you reconsider. So if there's a need for me to call back, I may.
All right. You may want to, well, I was going to say you may want to laugh further, but yes. All right. Okay. Thanks for calling for now. Okay. All right. So that was on the clip, followed by the citation which I read from the University of West Indies. I want to play this clip here. As I said, I'm going to be playing juxtaposing different clips. So I want to play this one now. This one has to do with during the Parliament and before the Parliament started, the Prime Minister withdrew the idea of amending the Constitution. And the Grenadian journalist, Calistra Farrier, I think that's her name, she posed a question to both Dr. Gonsalves, Dr. Friday, and later Dr. Gonsalves. But let's hear.
to do that. And we have some very good ideas. We have some very good partners. So I'm excited about it.
Well, that's not the one I really wanted to play. I wanted to play. Let's see if it's this one.
Display.
No, it's not that one.
The opposition talk about.
Well, I'm afraid I won't get it because I thought I had lined it up to play, but I don't have it.
Retreating a bit on the two pieces of legislation on the order paper for today relating to the change in definition of foreign power. Did you hear his comments, and what's your take on it?
I didn't hear his comments, but I was informed about his comments by someone in the leadership of our party who heard them, that the amendment to the Constitution and the amendment to the Representation of the People's Act, that he would like to put those to a select committee. That's what the information that I received. Clearly, this is an attempt to see if he can cool the public's anger over these two amendments to change the Constitution to benefit two persons. That's what this is about, to benefit he and Bramble and their cases before the court. You can't do that. It's improper. It's a misuse of the legislative power. And the courts have repeatedly ruled on the misuse of legislative power. The legislative power has limits. And what is clear also about this, the people know that in 2009 they voted to keep that provision in the Constitution. And now he's seeking, by using a two-thirds majority, which is permissible under the Constitution for this particular provision in the Constitution, to alter it to benefit himself and Bramble. And the people will not stand for it. And that's why he's backing away, backpedaling, trying to cool people's anger. But the only thing which would satisfy the people here and in the region and globally too, those who are interested in it, would be that he would withdraw these bills and let the court decide in July the status of the petitions in relation to the law at the time of the nomination and election last year.
Thank you.
So this is the one that I wanted to. The one that I wanted to play before, the one with Dr. Gonzalez's voice. So I am going to try and play it now. Once I get past this particular point, it has to do with me, basically. No, I don't seem to be able to do it, so I'll just go on to another one. And it is this one. But even before I do that, Peter, I'm sorry, that voice, which was Dr. Gonzalez's, was his reaction to the fact that the bills were not presented in Parliament, they were withdrawn. Any comment? In terms of, well, the reason they were withdrawn, and Dr. Gonzalez explained them, but also before that, in an interview again with, well, not an interview, she was asking, Calestra asked a question and asked Prime Minister Friday to respond to why.
I didn't particularly get Friday's response.
Yeah, I didn't play them.
But the Gonzalez response sounds reasonable in the circumstances.
Well, what he explained was basically, in my view, what's in the Constitution. And I think sometimes, Well, I've seen so many responses on social media, and I've heard so many, including from one host of a program here. Basically, well, I don't know how to put it, but what comes out is the glaring truth that folks don't understand the Constitution. I think many have not read it. And that includes some lawyers too, by the way, certainly some politicians as well. They have not read the Constitution. And in fact, it is clear in section 38, subsection 3, the procedure for altering the Constitution, or if you like, amending the Constitution, is laid out clear, like a bright sunny day in that section 38, how it is to be done. And I get flabbergasted and baffled why some people just don't seem to. Well, I come to the conclusion that most have not read, and if they have read, they don't understand what's in the Constitution, which is unfortunate, because the Constitution document, which is the highest law of the land, is not supposed to be there for lawyers to interpret it. It's like you and me, every ordinary person should be able to read and follow. And if you don't understand, go to somebody who could explain it, you know. But that doesn't happen. And some people who call themselves, quote unquote, influencers, they hear something and they jump on the social media platform and they repeat and regurgitate this nonsense. And sometimes they offer their own comments, which boils down to the same thing, belonging to the garbage can. And I mean, I would want to know that people can comment intelligently and on an informed basis on things, but not on matters that you're not familiar with, especially if you call yourself an influencer. That's dangerous, because you can start influencing the way others think, and in fact influencing the way others act, which is even more dangerous, you know. So yeah, Pijan, so I noticed in his response to the question, Prime Minister Friday said, it's put it, in fact, it's even the paper that is going to be later be put to consultation, people's consultation. It is not a simple consultation as a town hall, you know. That's part of the process. That's part of the process. In fact, I recall in 2000, leading up to the 2009 Constitution decision, when you had the referendum, I was a member of the Constitutional Review Commission under the tutelage of the late Panel Campbell QC. And I'm sure I don't know how much you are familiar with Panel Campbell's. And Panel Campbell for about 4 years insisted that all of us who were on the commission, and there were other lawyers like Nicole Sylvester, she's gone on, both Trump Commission, he also has gone on, people like former magistrate Zoila Ellis Brown, she was also on there, and others, you know. But we all had to go through that training under Panel Campbell. Not only the training, when he sensed that we had enough, we knew enough, that is when we went across the world, you know, to Canada, to the United States, to the UK, throughout the Caribbean, to make presentation and to get Vincentians living in those countries, cities across those countries. For example, I remember I visited Calgary, Winnipeg, Toronto, Montreal, and on some instances, we were on a radio program up there. It was definitely from Mr. Commission QC, Nicole Sylvester. They both have gone on, you know, they've passed on. And myself, we were on a radio station at York University, hosted by a Vincentian gentleman, Louis, I don't remember his first name. And likewise, other people went to the UK and did the same exercise twice, actually. That was the extent and the depth of the consultation process that eventually led to the referendum, which was held on the 27th of November, 2009. And that's the process of amending the Constitution. That is what was done. So, and to my understanding, amending the Constitution meaning changing a word, even a punctuation can change the meaning of a statement. So all of those things which comes under Section 38, subsection 3 of the Constitution, is what we did. So even as Prime Minister Friday is talking about putting up the bill for a later consultation, yes, but at the end of those, you have to have a referendum. It's a two-stage process according to Section 38.
But a referendum is not required for the amendment they propose in this time.
Any amendment in the Constitution, the Constitution itself says any amendment in any provision
require a referendum.
Read Section 38. It's online for people who want to access it.
But even
it's online.
We just heard Gonzalo say that it isn't required for this particular.
No, he said it required two-thirds majority.
The two-thirds majority in Parliament, but that's a referendum.
It's in Section 38. Sorry, I just invite people to read Section 38. That's all I want to do, because Section 38 says clearly any amendment. By the way, Section 38 deals with altering the Constitution,
right.
And it says very clearly any amendment in any provision requires a two-stage process. Well, it has to be two-stage before the Governor General signs. So, I'm not a lawyer, but I can read well.
I'm pretty sure that certain clauses don't need a two-thirds referendum.
Well, I don't know which ones. I don't know which ones those are. I have never seen any. But certainly, the one that was being attempted to change requires a two-thirds majority in Parliament. In Parliament and in a referendum.
I know in Parliament, yes.
Well, the only thing I can say, Pigeon, the only thing I would like to suggest now and invite people to do, read Section 38, subsection 3 of the existing Constitution. That's all I would want to say. And it's online. People could go and pull it down. SVG Constitution. It's online.
Then since 1979, there have been other changes made to the Constitution that didn't
Which changes made to the Constitution since 1979?
For example, the Boundaries Commission.
No, that's not. But the Constitution talks about that and how it could be done. Is that you don't have to come back to the Constitution to change the Constitution. The Constitution gives the government the power to set up a Boundaries Commission and for the Boundaries Commission to make changes.
I'd have to check out that.
Yeah, please do. It's on, as I said, it's online, and it's worth reading and understanding.
So it was an error to propose a change that didn't require a referendum?
It was an error. I wrote up, I did a commentary on that. I said it, and many times some people don't agree with me, but it is an error. It is an error. If once you read Section 38, subsection 3 of the Constitution, anybody reading that, and I invite anybody to go and read that and say they don't see it in there. In fact, you know, for it to have become law, the bill that was being proposed, as we know, the Governor General has to sign.
That's
right. And then it has to be published in the Gazette. But before the Governor General signs, it is stated in Section 38, subsection 3, he cannot sign unless, that's the word he used, unless he receives a certificate from the Speaker of the House to say that that part of the process went well, basically, and a report, I think from a certificate from the supervisor of election to confirm that the referendum was held and it went well. Only then can the Governor General sign. So that was that part. People who may have a different view can call and state their view, but that's my understanding of reading section 38. I remember we went through that very well when Underpan and Campbell's.
I thought the referendum was for entrenched clauses.
What are the entrenched clauses? But you see, section 38 tells you right away that she had to amend this constitution. That's what section 38 says. This constitution. And then you refers to this section. What has to be done in this section. So read again and see.
So why would a knowledgeable government propose a constitutional change without a referendum, knowing full well that there ought to be a referendum?
Why
did make any sense?
Why did they pull back?
That doesn't make any sense.
Why did they pull it back?
Public opinion was widely against it.
Not public opinion. That's the way. I believe they were
disruption.
I believe they were advised properly. I believe the government was advised properly.
But they should have said that.
Well, there's many things happening in the country, Pigeon, that we don't hear about, that they don't tell us.
There are certain clauses in the Constitution that can be changed.
But which ones?
Only with that. Well, that's what I need to know.
Well, let's somebody may point them out and call us and tell us. Because I know in section 30 it says any amendment to any provision in this constitution.
Must be in this section.
That's the language. No, it distinguishes between this section and this constitution when you read section 38. But people may be checking it out now as we are talking because it's online. SVG Constitution, just go type in SVG Constitution, it comes up, and you go to section 38 and you read that. Before you go to section 26, which is really where the change was proposed, section 25 and 26. Before you go there, see how you changed section 25 and 26 and what would tell you that, which is the schedule, is section 38. That's the schedule. Tells you what you can do, how you can do it, and so on and so forth. What is required. So that's a new challenge to some people who are listening. All right, so nobody's calling, so we got to move on from there because the time is going. But I want to play some other inserts, Pijan. As happened during the week. Okay.
Presented in this honorable house envisages a deficit of roughly 19% of GDP. Although the IMF staff assume that execution constraints...
I have to stop this because a call is coming in. Pigeon, let's take the call. Good morning. Oh, I just missed. I was a bit late on that one. So the person may wish to call back. Okay. So I'll start this again.
A ministerial statement on his visit to a spring meeting in Washington for the World Bank and the IMF.
Okay. So.
What he came back with and when he talked. He intends to institute in the country a homegrown IMF program. Hear what he said. Remember this, I told the people.
Well, this is what really the Prime Minister said.
And we have some very good ideas. We have some very good partners. So I'm excited about it. But it takes a little time. And we don't want to get bogged down with distractions. The point of the matter is...
you certainly created your own distraction, Prime Minister, by bringing those two bills putting those two bills on the Parliament, on the order. Well, you brought 6 bills, but 2 very controversial ones, which people have described as self-serving, given that you are one of the 2 people who are named
this
in the
is going to
petition.
clarify something later on, and so on. Let the court do the business, and then we will have this matter clear so that you can't have sole rulers coming to the court and saying they don't want to turn over things and so forth. This matter is clear to me, it's clear to most people, it's clear to the jurists and so forth. We just want to make sure now that it's clear in the statute, and that will come in time.
I am bright, but it's not clear to me.
You're welcome.
Friday made a ministerial statement on his visit to I'm
have to admit, I'm having some challenges in controlling the order of things. You notice that the one that I wanted to play long ago, Pigeon, was that one I just played. So now you heard it. That's Calestra Ferrier from Grenada, the journalist, asking Dr. Friday about him pulling back the bills. And I had played Dr. Gonzalez's response to that because she asked him to respond to that. But you're saying, Pigeon, that you Claire, is that's what you said?
I was kind of responding to
Friday's comment, yes.
That when he's saying that it is clear to everybody, I'm saying I'm bright, but it is not clear to me.
Sorry, you say you're bright?
In other words, I'm not.
I know what you're saying. I'm just.
I'm not average, and I can't understand it. So I could imagine the other persons who are not as bright as I am, whether or not they could understand it.
Yeah. I don't want to do that, but I will do it because Lansford won't mind me saying it. I don't know if Lansford understand.
All right.
Maybe I don't know if he understood what the Prime Minister was saying about the fact that he had to pull back the bills. Lansford, if you understand, share with us your understanding. So those are the 2 I wanted to play up front. Unfortunately, I didn't have them in the right order. At least I didn't play them in the right order, sorry. And so that was that. But we have dealt with that. So we're going to move on to another aspect of what happened in the weekend. This is, I think, part of Dr. Friday's address to the Parliament.
2026 budget that we presented in this Honorable House envisages a deficit of roughly 19% of GDP. Although the IMF staff assume that execution constraints could reduce the outturn to around 11%. Even on the more favorable assumption, key debt burden indicators remain well above established sustainability thresholds. To stabilize and ultimately reverse the debt trajectory, IMF and World Bank staff recommended a cumulative improvement in the primary balance of approximately 11 percentage points of GDP over a 3-year period. It's ambitious. This adjustment would be anchored by a transition to and sustained maintenance of a primary surplus of around 3% of GDP, implemented through front-loaded but carefully sequenced financial consolidation and safeguarded by explicit social spending floors. Madam Speaker, one of the things that really encouraged me is that irrespective of the debt situations, all of the people you spoke with, and we had conversations, Madam Speaker, we were very fortunate from the very highest levels to mid-level persons within these institutions. They recognize the importance of social spending and the need to maintain those to protect people's lives and livelihoods. The fiscal adjustment strategy discussed with international partners is anchored in consolidation that preserves growth, safeguards equity, and protects the most vulnerable. A central pillar of this approach is expenditure rationalization. the IMF Fiscal Affairs Department committed to undertake an expenditure rationalization mission aimed at identifying high-impact fiscal savings without undermining economic recovery and social outcomes. Priority action includes the reprioritization of capital expenditure. That means adjusting the focus, with capital spending to be reduced to around 5% of GDP and focused exclusively on projects with clear growth, resilience, or climate adaptation returns. Wage bill pressures would be addressed through natural attrition and disciplined hiring practices, and cost of living linked adjustments. In parallel, comprehensive public expenditure reviews of high spending ministries and state-owned enterprises would be conducted to improve efficiency and accountability, alongside strengthened public investment management frameworks to prevent low return or poorly sequenced projects from reinflating our public debt.
All right, so that was part of the ministerial statement that Prime Minister Godwin Friday read to Parliament last Tuesday. And I now want to, well, there's a lot more than that he said in that statement, but I just want to play now former Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves' response to that.
Ministerial statement on his visit to a spring meeting in Washington for the World Bank and the IMF. What he came back with and when he talked. He intends to institute in the country a homegrown IMF program. Hear what he said. Remember this, you know. I told the people that if you elect Friday, if you elect the NDP, you're going to the IMF, you know. You're going for an IMF program, you know. He said that the IMF tell him that the trajectory of the debt is unsustainable. But even but you know what they told him? They say your budget would increase the debt to GDP ratio by 19%. He says he's bringing an IMF team. And what they want to do, he says, they're going for a homegrown stabilization and growth framework. IMF, homegrown. In other words, IMF will tell them what to do. And they would accept what IMF says with all its conditions. And what are some of these? He pointed out already. He said when the IMF team comes, they're going to reprioritize capital spending. They're going to reduce capital spending. They're reducing the capital spending on vital works. Means less job, less economic activity. They say they have to control the wage bill. How are they going to control it? By attrition. You know what that means? People retire and they don't hire anybody to replace them. That's what attrition is. That's what he said yesterday. You know, y'all play it back. Y'all would hear what he said. And what he also said? Wage controls, wage and salary controls. So Imamagayu with a bonus, take away the nurses and nursing assistants and nursing aides $500 supplementary income. Don't give them the salary increase of 5% or thereabouts. what the unions are saying. What is Boucher saying? Can't bite it up. You hear it? Attrition. Not hiring anybody for those who retire. And wage controls. And then labor market reform. Anytime you hear labor market reform, you know they're going to make things more difficult for workers.
The 2026.
All right, so that was it. That was the practitioner, economist, and a man who understands political economy speaking there. Yes, that was first of all the insert from part of the ministerial statement by Prime Minister Friday to Parliament and former Prime Minister reaction to that.
But how would you respond to the idea that Friday proposals at the moment are in response to the situation he met upon assuming office?
Well, I know I heard him saying, Friday responded, talk about the budget, what the IMF said about the budget being was on a trajectory to be unsustainable. And when Dr. Gonzalez spoke, he said that Dr. Friday, Prime Minister Friday, was talking about the budget that his government prepared. Remember, he said that
the government, the budget is prepared in response to the situation he met.
Yeah, but
how would you respond to that?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know how you'd respond. But first of all, let me state the fact that as Dr. Friday, as Prime Minister Friday himself said, that the trajectory means that the public debt was going to be increased by 19%, right? And Dr. Gonzalez responded and repeated that. And that it was going to bring the debt to GDP ratio 113%, whereas it was 97 in 2025. So that's what he explained there. Now, clearly, Prime Minister Friday, in my view, in my thinking, the government has its own ideas, and they are putting some of those ideas, tweaking the budget and putting some of those things in place. And I think that is what he took to the IMF, and the IMF warned that is going to be the case in terms of what they would have to do. The question you asked is that the situation they met. Question is, that's what the previous government said they were going to do. They didn't predict going to the IMF. So how were they going to do it? That's the question. They were going to be able to, that's what they're saying. They're going to be, that's what former Prime Minister Gonzalez been saying, that they would have been able to manage what they had put forward. In fact, more than that, he was questioning payment of 5% to nurses and some other categories of workers. Dr. Gonzalez was questioning that, which suggests to me that he knew or he knows of a way to manage public finances without going to the IMF. That is my understanding of listening to what he said.
Okay.
I'd love to be able to hear from him himself addressing that issue, the question that you asked. But I'm just giving my understanding of what he said. People who are listening, all people like our good friend and our colleague, Lansford, I hope he's not still laughing so he can call us now to give an explanation to that. Lansford, if you're hearing me, it'd be good to hear from you in terms of that. You've been also an economist and having had practical experience. It'd be good to hear from you. And any person out there who has a knowledge of how to respond to the question that Peter asked. Kojo was saying that he's trying to call us and he's not getting through. I don't know why. Nothing has changed. I don't know if I touched anything. Karen, if you're there and you hear me, I need your help. Rajiv, is you there? Okay, we have a call. Let's take the call, first of all. Some big Lansford. Hey, hi, Lansford. Welcome back.
Hey, Cecil. Hello, you hear
Yes,
me?
yeah, we're hearing you. We're hearing you.
Now, look at a simple arithmetic error. Well, an error, huge error that was committed by this government that is rooted in simple arithmetic. The wage bill of St. Vincent and the wage bill of the government of St. Vincent and Grenadines is approximately $30 million a month. That gives you $360 million for the year. $20 million is approximately 5% of $360 million. You see where I'm going, Cecil?
Not yet.
So the government in January paid out just over $20 million to civil servants in one payment. Now, they had the opportunity, rather than paying the $20 million as a bonus, as they call it, should have, could have. I mean, when you speak like this, they tell you they have their 14-1 mandate. But they must remember it's only 56% of those who voted for the NDP. It's not equivalent to the 14-1 ratio that they're using. I respect their right to govern in the 14-1 style in the parliament, because that's where it is important. But when it comes to public matters, they need to give more respect to the vote that takes place across the country. Going back to the point, though, the government had the opportunity to pay civil servants a 5% increase in salary. So in January, civil servants got a 5% on their salary. In February, now that would have alleviated the problem that the government had in raising that $20 million all at once, and now restrict their ability to raise further financing. I made that point last week. You don't take your $20 million and spend it off all at once. When you could have spent it, you had the opportunity to raise it as you go along, as people pay taxes every month. You pay that 5% to civil servants. And that would have benefited civil servants more in the long run. And I don't know why those who lead the unions didn't see this and appreciate it. It will benefit civil servants, public officials more in the long run, because it counts for your pension. That would be included in your calculation for your pension. Now, as it is now, the government puts itself in a problem where they paid out that large sum, $20 million in addition to the $30 million approximately. So in 1 month, if they had to find $50 million. And now in February and in March and in April, it becomes more difficult to raise money to meet your expenditure. And I think that is part of that hustle, the government, to go to the IMF. And of course, the language that Dr. Friday read there in Parliament as Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, it's all about a structural adjustment program. It is nothing other than a structural adjustment program. So whether you come and tell us that the MIF is providing you with a structural adjustment program, or you're going to bring them and appear as though it is produced and prepared locally. A rose is a rose.
Lansford,
you can call it any other name. It's a rose. It's a structural adjustment program.
Lansford, what makes a program, any program, a structural adjustment program other than a regular program?
A structural adjustment program, Pigeon, is when you implement a program that actually impact the structure of the economy. Meaning that you're going to change, for example, let me use an example. The Prime Minister has indicated that he's going to reduce capital expenditure.
Reduce or revise? I heard the word revise.
Well, he's going to revise it, yes, but he's going to cap it at approximately $1 billion. $1.5 billion, approximately. He's going to cap it. You didn't hear that one?
No.
He said he's going to cap it at 5%, bring it down to 5% of GDP. You see, when you listen to these things, you have to listen and analyze things that are said that are not spelled out. Because when he says he's going to bring it down he's going to cap it at 5% of GDP, it means that, well, in the current state, it's probably a little less than the 1 billion. But in the past, we have had capital estimates that were more than $1 billion. More than 5% of GDP. And why do you want to cap capital expenditure when capital expenditure is what positions your economy to grow? Not consumption helps, but consumption must help to drive capital investment, capital formation. And if you're going to reduce the capital formation, you're going to have a problem in the long run. No, I know that I didn't hear his team that went to the IMF. I am wondering if there were any civil servants who went with him. Because, gentlemen, we have very experienced economists, public administrators in the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We have persons who have worked in the Ministry of Finance at this stage for approximately 40 years.
Lansford, just to say, in response to a question posed in the Parliament by the leader of the opposition, Dr. Friday, Prime Minister Friday, responded that other members of the team included the Budget Director, Mr. Morris, and
Morris or Mr. Frederick.
Mr. Morris. Mr. Frederick is from planning. So those two are in the team.
And Kevin Hope.
The fiscal advisor.
Cecil, the local authorizing officer in St. Vincent for the World Bank, is the director of planning.
Right. And, so he was there, Frederick.
And that is for the World Bank, right?
Oh, okay.
And for the IMF, it is the Director General of Finance and Planning.
Okay. His name was not called. His name was not called as a member of the team.
The point I'm making, though, Cecil, we have in our country, in our administration, persons who are far more experienced than some of these persons who we are going to be relying on to mess with our economy. And I'm saying this from experience. Many of these persons who come as economists from the World Bank, economists from the IMF, are persons who just they went through the tertiary system, meaning from high school they're going to do their bachelor's and continue until they have completed their PhD or whatever doctoral degree they have. And they get an appointment at the World Bank, at the IMF, but they do not have the experience of, say, a Ricardo Frederick, the director of planning, who have served in the planning unit, the planning division, for well over 20 years. They understand what our economy, they live here, they understand our socio-culture, our socio-economic situation, they understand it. When you go and you bring these persons to come in to design a program for you, it is going to reflect, for the most part, what they learn in school, what these persons learn in school, because they do not have the practical experience. At the IMF and at the World Bank, I am not arguing that they do not have competent, experienced persons there. But these are higher up in the organization. For example, the Minister of Finance in Jamaica was recruited by one of these organizations as a deputy manager, because Jamaica, under him, had continued to adjust their economy, to bring it to a state where they were impressed. These multilateral organizations were impressed with what he had done in Jamaica. The point I'm making, we are not going to have a Dr. Clark coming to St. Vincent to recommend programs. These folks that we are going to have, for the most part, are young, inexperienced persons who are qualified with the doctorate, PhD or otherwise, but not necessarily experienced persons. I have to deal with them in the past, and they come with the theory, they come with what they learn in the books. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is at a special place. I said it, and I will continue to say it, where we have built a foundation and our economy is in a position, if you take certain actions, if you get investment to go in a particular direction, the economy could expand rapidly, notwithstanding what is happening around the world. We saw it in COVID. While there was potential in the world economy to reduce, St. Vincent and the Grenadines continue to expand in terms of capital investment. And when the world economy started to rebound, we were able to benefit from it, as we see in our tourist arrivals. That's what we need at this point in time. That's what Dr. Gonsalves, as Prime Minister, has been talking about over the years. Counter-cyclical activities in the government. We have positioned ourselves where we can take advantage of that. If we can get, as I said last week, the Beaches Hotel to be constructed at this point in time, when growth, economic growth, as predicted by the IMF, is expected to contract, our economy will be going the other way. We'll be expanding. We will be adding to our GDP. And while we add into our GDP, we will be creating employment in the construction sector and positioning ourselves when, as I said, when the world economy starts rebounding, when all that is happening in the Middle East is settled, as we can expect it to do at some point in time. When that is settled and people start making money again and is able to travel, having been at home for these 2, 3, 4 years, forever long this contraction may last, they will find it necessary to travel and come out and experience what we have to offer them. This is not a time for us to start doing things that will cause our economy to contract. Definitely not. If we do that, we would waste all of the investment that we have made over the last 30 years. I said it, we saw it in 1984. Now, in 1984, St. Vincent had a lot of capital formation. In St. Vincent, there was a lot of capital leading up to 1984. You saw it in factory shelves. You saw it in the exports that were going out from St. Vincent, from Pico, St. Vincent Children Wear, St. Vincent Electronics. You can name them. But I don't think we did enough. While there were entities, enterprises that were attracted by virtue of giving them tax holidays, I don't think we did enough so that our people would have been able to continue doing things, even in a smaller scale, and to expand on it after those entities left. What we did, and the historical data will show you, that we spent a lot of what we were earning at that time in consumption. A lot of our consumption, a lot of our expenditure was in consumption at the household level. And that actually position us that when we lost the banana industry, we had a serious problem. And that is why the government started with James Mitchell, had to set aside resources to expand the services industries. James Mitchell bought an estate on the leeward side and set it aside for tourism expansion. He put an airport on Deckway. Let's criticize it. That's your opinion. But I am certain that James Mitchell, for whatever other reason, saw that as an avenue for bringing more persons to the Grenadines. In the 1980s and 1990s, the Grenadines had a significant amount of persons who come on the one-day excursion to St. Vincent, Union Island. And I believe that's what Mr. Mitchell was seeking to capitalize on when he created that airport in Deckway. Now, Dr. Gonzalez has taken it further. He's expanded the airport in Canawan and has built a new airport on St. Vincent. And unless we use them wisely, unless we use them to attract further investment, gentlemen, we're going to have the problem for a long time that Dr. Friday has set out to solve.
Lansford, Sandals Beach has been private capital, being financed by private capital. How do you see the significance of that?
Very significant. significant, Cecil. Very significant. Again, I talk about creating capital expenditure in St. Vincent. This will be expenditure in St. Vincent that the government will not have to think about paying back. All right? You have in millions of dollars invested in your country. That as a government, you don't have to concern yourself with paying that. It's not going to impact the government expenditure, except in a positive way, because even though you're not charging the company taxes, the workers pay taxes. If not income tax, they pay value-added tax and taxes on the things that they import generally. Now, that expenditure, even though it is private, it is going to expand our GDP. For the last how many years, construction has been a driver in our economic activity. And these large projects, especially when they're not government financed, government do not have to borrow a loan anywhere to do it. Government is not losing anything. Even the tax exemption that persons complain about that government is losing, government is not losing it. Because the expenditure is not taking place now, and government not getting it. So if when the expenditure takes place and government they don't get it, the government is not losing anything. The country is gaining. The government will get taxes otherwise. So the point that you made, Cecil, in terms of this being a private investment, it is very positive. There are some persons who are influenced by what they perceive these investors may have in terms of political influence because of the investment. But that is only a problem if the investor has political interest. As far as I know, the stewards are not politicians. They're not involved in politics in the country from where they come from, as far as I know. And once things are happening in your country, once there's economic growth taking place in your country and the people are feeling it, people are gaining employment because of it, the government will get the credit for it. This is what we have traditionally been hearing about FDI, foreign direct investment. Possibly can at this point in time. And that is why I continue to make the point that rather than focusing on an IMF program, the thing to do at this point is to get those investors who had indicated that they are willing to invest in your country, is to have discussions with them. Never mind, you may have criticized them when you were in opposition. Now you're in government, you have to see things differently and approach them in the same way that we heard then Finance Minister Gonzalez approaching these people and having the one-to-one discussion with them, bringing them to St. Vincent to see what St. Vincent is like. You don't have to bring the stewards now. They've been here, they're here. They know what St. Vincent is like. Part of your work has been done already. What you have to seek to do now is to engage them. But at the end of the day, Cecil, we go back to the 14-1 government, and nobody can advise them because it's this kind of advice that made the ULP, that put the ULP in opposition now. But they will learn.
Well,
my in summary, Cecil, in summarizing this issue of this IMF, this big IMF push. I could not agree with Pigeon Moore when he made a simple statement earlier, that it is about time we see the new government governing. They have to move beyond attempting to make everybody who was there before them look bad. What they don't understand, that the criticism that they are making, while their 41 voters will think that they're criticizing the politicians of the past, they're not criticizing the politicians. A lot of these accusations that they are making are really about civil servants. For example, when a minister is in the parliament and talk about 15 houses in one locale that was paid for completely, and there's nothing to show. That is not about the Minister of Housing. The Minister of Housing do not make payments to anybody. I don't know if they think that they will be making, meaning the current ministers, they will be making payments. The ministers do not make any payments. The accounting officer in the ministry, the permanent secretary in this case, are the ones that make payments. Well, of course, in keeping with the other areas of the administration, the audit department, the Ministry of Finance. You can't spend anything more than $6,000 and do not have at least a form contract, meaning one of those contracts where it has been designed already in a form. Anything up at $6,000, you have to have one of those contracts. And anytime it goes over $20,000, you need to get the tenders board approval, and you need to get the Ministry of Finance approval before these payments are made. Now, Cecil, I don't know about you, but I have been around construction as a layman for a few years. I've done my own little construction in the past. When you give a contract for construction, it is not normal. I don't know which chief technical officer will advise or approve or recommend that you pay out the entire sum for 15 houses. When you're given a construction contract, you have what is called a mobilization fee, a mobilization amount, which is usually about 10 to 15% of the overall amount. That is, for all purposes, a loan to the contractor. It's a loan to the contractor for them to get started. And as the contractor goes along, he or she will submit, the firm will submit certificates of partial completion. So in the contract, you would have a sum for the foundation. When the foundation is done, the contractor submits his bill for that. It is inspected, payment approved. A part of the mobilization fund is deducted. Remember I said it was a loan? A part of that is deducted, and the remainder is paid to the contractor. And you go along like that until the construction is done. So if a ministry was to give a contract and pay over the entire sum to the contractor, that ministry may have violated the norms of construction, what usually attains in construction, and may have violated the finance regulations. I've heard about it in the past, maybe 30 years ago or so, there were accusations made project that took place at the Falls of Belen. I have not seen it substantiated anyway. So I would not repeat it, because many times these things could be rumors, simple rumors. I would not come here and repeat it, but it was made maybe 30, 35 years ago. The point is, Cecil, if a permanent secretary violated the law in that way, it is incumbent on the Director General of Finance to recommend that disciplinary action be taken. If there is an investigation to be done, it is done, and it will be determined whether the file goes to the DPP or the sanctions are imposed that are being made. And spoken as though you're accusing politicians. You're not accusing politicians. You're accusing civil servants. The same people you sit down on a day-to-day basis and you work with, and they support you. They provide files for you. They provide documentation. They provide advice for you. They write papers for you. They write presentations for you. You must stop treating them not in opposition anymore. You're the government. Behave like you're in government.
I presume what you're saying, this is the advice for the present Minister of Housing and those
yes,
others.
And for all the other ministers.
All the others. Yeah, okay.
You are a minister. You're in government. Stop behaving as though you're in opposition.
But won't you say also say that the civil servants must stop behaving as if they're in government?
As if they're ministers.
As if they're ministers.
By doing what, Pigeon?
By demonstrating open partisanship in the perception of the eyes of the public.
But that's where the problem is Pigeon. Perception is the reality of perceive it. Civil servants have their roles spelled out in law. And if they violate those laws, there are clear actions to be taken against them. Very clear actions to be taken against them. When I was working with the government, and there were lots of accusations made against me, and even persons who thought they were coming to be on my side and defend me, when they spoke publicly, they were making accusations about me that were unfounded and untrue in their attempt to defend me. Civil servants are guided by rules and regulations. There's a Finance Act. The Civil Service Order is now law. So you can take actions under the Civil Service Order. That is lawful. That is law. It's no longer a document that has been accepted and guided the operations of the civil service. So I don't know this thing about civil servants who are behaving as though they are politicians. Pigeon, it is a few months ago, a month or two ago. Yes. All the way up to the Constitution. To the Privy Council. Ruled that given the people who constitute the civil service, they have more than a right. They have a responsibility to comment on political actions in these countries in the Caribbean. And the Privy Council gave good reasoning for it. So this excuse about you must get rid of them because you're being politicians, this is nonsense. Politicians need to understand their role, their responsibility, and act in that regard. I have known in the past where a politician go to a site and tell a heavy equipment operator, go and do some work here. And then it was not even in his ministry. And then present the bill to the permanent secretary. Of course, the permanent secretary refused to pay it. She was not being a politician. She was acting in accordance with the law and the regulations. And if that is what civil servants are doing now, they have all right. And I say more than a right, they have a responsibility to do so. Civil servants ought to know the law. Because as I often make the point, when you go to the Public Accounts Committee, no minister ain't going there to talk about the operations of government. The minister ain't going to go there to explain the activities of the ministry. It is civil servants who have to do it, the permanent secretary and his or her staff. They are the ones who will face the law. So when a man thinks he is a keyboard warrior and feel he can go on social media and talk about remove this and remove that, there would be good reason to remove them if the people are not doing the work. But to tell me, as a permanent secretary, to fill a post that it do not exist, and even though it is existing, I do not have approval to fill, and I refuse to fill it. You can't take action against me for that, because it is my responsibility to ensure that there's a post available. The post is vacant, and approval is granted to fill the post. So I see some of these things in the past where politicians are going in the media and making these statements. And what was bad? These politicians spent many years in the public service, who, by virtue of them being a wrong administration, they may have been technical officer, but being a wrong administration, should have known better than what they're saying. Philbert, I don't know where you get that impression from, that public servants behaving as though they're politicians. If it is that they're expressing their view on the politics, they have a right and they have a responsibility to do so based on the words of our highest courts.
All right, Lansford.
Thank you, Cecil.
That was good. Thanks again, as usual.
Wonderful contribution as usual.
Thanks as usual. All right, I know the Kojo has been trying to reach us, but Kojo, now is your chance. And all the other persons, I've heard the phone clicking in the background. And as usual, I don't interrupt people when they're making their own contribution. So now is your time, 457-9997, to be with us this morning. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon. So how we did not know the previous government was going to go to the IMF? We don't know that. Right?
I don't know. You're making a contribution. You go ahead. You make your contribution.
Yeah, we didn't know if they were going to go to the IMF. They don't have to come and tell you that. Well, technically, they may have to come and tell you, but they do things without telling you they're going to do it. Right? And there's a reason for that. In an election year, you think they're going to come and say we're going to go to the IMF? Oh, so that's possibly was on the card. We don't know that. We don't know that. Yeah. And yes, okay, so that's my contribution.
All right, thanks for calling us today. Gentlemen, believe in dwelling in the past. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Right.
Good afternoon.
You call me?
Are you making a point on the program? This is Issue at Hand. Are you making a point?
Yeah, but
Are you making a contribution to the discussion?
WEFM?
Yes, it is WFM. Issue at Hand. And you call in to make a contribution to the program, to the discussion?
I thought it was my brother working there.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. My name is Cecil Ryan, and my colleague is Philbert John.
Yeah,
PJ.
I know. Mr. Ryan, I know you good.
Well, I'm just telling you who we are. So I don't know if you consider us your brethren.
What? I know your voice good, Mr. Ryan.
Yeah, okay. Then you don't know me.
I know.
If you're saying that, you don't know me.
You
but
might
anyway,
know me.
We can small talk. We have other calls coming in.
Yeah.
All right?
So you have the program going on that then.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, good. Yeah. Greetings, Coach.
So, I want to get in when you say that when Friday said that the previous government didn't have no imagination.
You're still in. It's still correct. I mean, current. You're in. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's so fun that you recycling project like that development bank that failed before, and you recycling it now, and then seeing that.
Kojo, just a minute. Kojo, just hold a minute.
Yeah.
Somebody's trying to get on via WhatsApp, and the person would not be able to get on now because you're on. So I just want to tell the person, hold on and to call again when you're off. Okay? All right. Yes, Kojo, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, that's it. So you're also creative in recycling projects like a development bank that failed. I mean, I can't see how you would consider that as something creative. There was a development bank in St. Vincent already. It didn't materialize because it was underfunded. And the amount of money they were putting forward for a development bank, I don't even think the money could is enough to even though we call the managerial portion of the bank itself.
Well, the sum was $5 million.
No, 5,000.
5 million, not the total. No. $5 million. No. Please check your facts. It was $5 million that former Prime Minister Eustace. That's what he pledged in his budget. $5 million.
You're going back as far as Eustace. I'm talking about the present government. The amount of money that they put forward for the opening up of the bank.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the one that Kojo. You mentioned Kojo. Hold on. Let's clarify. You mentioned one failed in the past. That one you're talking about. Listen, please. Let's have a conversation. I was saying to you that the one that failed, the capital that was put into it, the initial capital was $5 million. That's under former Prime Minister Arnim Eustace.
Yes, I know that.
Okay, so you're talking about what now?
I was talking about the present government, the amount of money that they pledged for this.
Oh, that they proposed in the budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in this budget. To me, that's not enough money to even do the administration part of setting it up. Much more to have loans for people. Because if you only put in 500,000, by the time you set up the bank, all the money done.
No, but Kojo, let's be. You remember that a couple of things. First of all, the current Prime Minister said that he has been meeting with the African Exim Bank, I think Afro-Zim Bank, and when he came back from Nigeria, the Minister of Agriculture added to that narrative that he met with somebody from the I don't remember the exact pronunciation of the bank now, and that they were going to provide money to the Caribbean establishment for funding of farmers' project and so on and so forth. Do you remember that?
But yeah, that's just that came after the budget, you know. All those things came after the budget.
Yes, Kocho, but I'm saying to you, those are the ideas they wish to advance. And I think that's what they're saying. That's where they're going to get source money for the bank. The bank has not been established yet because a bill was taken to Parliament last Tuesday to establish that bank. It has not been established yet.
Okay. But all I'm saying is, you know, you recycle something and you make it sound like if you're being creative, and I don't think that is a creative project because it was established already. It's invincible. You trying to bring it back. To me, things that is creative is the education revolution, building the report, building the budget cards, but those are creative things. That those things are not seen in St. Vincent before. The new port in St. Vincent, that's creative. Those are creative ideas. And Pigeon, I asked this question on the radio the other day, and I think someone in the same should quite understand how to answer it. I asked if you could help me understand. Would you like your Prime Minister?
But Kojo, before you can you push the phone a little bit away from your mouth because it sounds very distorted. So to be clear, just push that a little bit from your mouth. Go ahead.
Okay, I was using my earbud. So, could you? How would you feel that your Prime Minister of your country has to answer to another Prime Minister of another country?
It depends on the question.
I'm asking you the question. Your Prime Minister, which is governing Friday right now, he has to answer to the Prime Minister of Canada. Because he was supposed to Canada. He has to answer to that Prime Minister.
On the face of it, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, that's the point I was trying to make the other day with Kingsley. And he seemed to think it was okay for his Prime Minister to answer to another Prime Minister.
As it is, Kojo, as it is right now, these are the facts. One, the Prime Minister of Canada is Mr. Carney. What's his last name? Mark Carney. He's the Prime Minister of Canada. Friday and Bramble, being citizens of Canada, they have to answer to the Prime Minister of Canada as citizens of Canada. Is that the question you're asking?
Yeah, and that's the point I'm saying. Your Prime Minister of your country, who's supposed to be governing your country, has to answer to another Prime Minister. They can't get away from it. They don't have to answer to the Prime Minister of Canada. Whichever law that governs Canada governs your Prime Minister in your country.
Kojo, it's very difficult it's very hard listening to you. I don't know what you're doing with your phone, but if you're speaking to could you speak directly and listen so that it's easier to speak to listen to you? Right now, it's very difficult. You're making valid points.
Let me see if I could take myself off of this.
Yes, please. That would help. Because I'm sure listeners are finding it very difficult to follow you. All right, so you off?
No, I don't know.
And there's now an echo.
Let me just call back and see if it
Yes,
can
all right. Avoid the echo. All right, thanks for calling in the meantime. Yeah, Kojo has a way of speaking so loud into the mouthpiece that it's hard. But he's going to call back, so he's going to finish his point. All right, so we still have some time so persons who wish to call us can do so now. 457-9997 is our number, WhatsApp and otherwise. So you can call us now, and we would be happy to entertain your contribution to the program today. Pigeon, anything you But you understand the point that Coach was making?
Yes, I understand the point he was making.
But it's a fact. I mean, it's a statement of fact. Mark Carney being the Prime Minister of Canada, and every citizen of Canada has Mark Carney as their Prime Minister. Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Cecil. Good afternoon, P. John.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Are you hearing me clearly?
Yeah, we're hearing you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wonder if Coach is using a speakerphone.
I don't know. He's going to solve his problem. Let's not worry about that.
Yeah,
he will solve his problem.
With that. Yeah. But I just want to say, listening to Mr. Weeks, well, to me, it was an excellent presentation. He explained a lot of things that I guess I didn't know. I'm sure a lot of people, not knowing what he's explaining and saying. So I think that is something that a lot of people should come back and listen to this program. In my opinion, excellent.
Well, Jeff, two things I want to say. First of all, Mr. Weeks is a trained economist. That's the first thing. Let me finish. Mm-hmm. That's one. Two, Mr. Weeks has a lot of practical experience, having himself been PS in, I think, more than one ministry anyway. But he knows what he's talking about. He understands government and the way the government works. So that is two things we need to know about Mr. Weeks. There are others, but we need to know that. All right?
Yes, I know. I know I've been listening when he calls, and I highly respect the man because he knows what he's talking about. I know one previous caller talked about we did not know whether the former Prime Minister would have gone to IMF. But I'm sure, I'm sure, but you have had many chances of going to the IMF before because citizens have gone through many difficulties, and he has not done that. So I don't know where they're coming from, but because election, he might not have said that. I don't know. I think he would have done it anyway. But I just want to comment on Mr. Weeks. Congratulate Mr. Weeks for his tremendous contribution to this program.
All right. So thank you very much.
Yes.
All right.
Not a problem.
Thanks
you have a great day.
You too.
All right.
All right. I see Kojo was just trying to call us back. So Kojo, you can go right ahead and call us now. The lines are free. So you can come right back in. Peter, any response to that?
I was saying that it's not true to say that the government has never gone to the IMF. They have not gone for the program that we normally find unpopular, which is the structural adjustment program.
Could you sorry, Pigeon, somebody's calling. I can't take the call. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. How are you guys doing? That was great commentary from Lansford. I usually look forward to when he on the program, he give good information. But one thing I would like to say, this government, like everyone's saying, they definitely need to start governing and stop acting like they are in opposition.
And why are you saying that? Before you go on to the other one, why are you saying that? Why are you saying that?
Because it's like they act like they're still campaigning. They're complaining about what the previous government was doing. Vincent Chan hired them to do a job because of the complaint they have with the previous government. They don't want you to keep telling them 4 or 5 months into your job what the previous government didn't do. They want you to do a job. Another issue I have with them is like when they are in parliament, they need to start acting like professional and grown up and stop disrespecting the Speaker of the House. That's your speaker. That's not the ULP speaker.
Well, it's not the ULP. That's the Speaker of the House. You said it. She's the Speaker of the House. Both sides. You said it.
Exactly. Yeah, both sides. But what I'm saying, that was appointed by you guys, by them. And for the disrespect, especially from Israel Bruce Bramble and Leacock to that lady, is very disrespectful. They need to act like grown-up rather than children. The Speaker is there to do a job and she needs to be respected and be given her authority to do her job.
You know, instead, I mean, they act, I won't even call them high school bullies. They act like kindergarten bullies. You don't do that to the lady. She have a job to do.
All right, so
she are
you have
professional, and they need to be professional too.
All right, you have a second point? You say you had a second point?
No, that was my 2 points.
Those are 2 points. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. You guys have a good day.
You too.
Right.
Thanks for calling. Welcome back, Kojo.
Yeah, I hope I sound better now.
Yeah, much better.
Okay. So, Fijan, I think you heard my question that because my phone call was distorted, we didn't get to, you didn't get to answer me properly. So, I'm asking you the question again. Would you really like your prime minister of your country to have to answer to the prime minister of another country, let me say Canada, right now?
No, on the face of it, absolutely no.
And that's my point. I'm arguing with Kingsley the other day, and he seems not to understand that his prime minister has to answer to the Canadian prime minister because he's a citizen of that country. You need your prime minister to have his power in his own hands to do what you want. He can't right now. He cannot go against Canada for anything because he's a citizen of Canada.
No, but he can go against Canada, the policies of the current government.
I mean, yes, he can, but how you?
I think what the point is, if for example, for whatever reason, Canada and any other country, say the United States, get into war, I mean, it would be difficult for him, or even St. Vincent, theoretically, or in any Caribbean country. I think that's the question you want to pose. Which side will it come down on?
Yeah, well, now which side will he come down on? Because if he's a Canadian and he go against Canada, Canada could expel him from the country.
Well, not expel him from the country, but right to
take away citizenship.
Yeah.
So I mean, to me, that's why I say that my prime minister of my country should be totally without any ties to any other country, be straightforward and upfront with my country and be only for my country. Has no ties with another country.
But the constitution says that, Kojo.
I know, but a lot of people seem to want to go around people seem to want to go around the constitution, but in moral standard I'm talking about now, in just straightforward moral standard, you should see yourself as a person. If you're going to run a country, you should only have ties to that country and no other country, just the moral standards. Without anything. You should know that if you're going to defend your country, you must all have only rights for your country. You don't have no tie up in another country. Because now you can't make some decision and sentence if you have connection to other countries. Because
but you're saying, to be clear, you're saying if there comes a time when St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Canada has to enter into some kind of, I don't know, agreement, policy agreement, whatever it is, you're saying that it'd be difficult to figure out which side he's going to line up on. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, because if it's something to benefit St. Vincent, and Canada doesn't want to do that to defend St. Vincent. Here's the Prime Minister. What position you gonna hold? What position you gonna hold? So you have to be. Yeah.
All right. Point well made. Any other point you want to make?
I just, as everybody's saying, I think I don't know if you hit on mute thing because mute came out make sure he put his words out and tell people exactly what happened. I mean, I knew from before that Luther had helped Matthew set up the whole system, but I heard that Luther write computer. So I want to know, when did he write it? Because if you help a man set up himself and get him all the passwords and all kind of stuff, when did he write it? Because if you give me passwords, when you leave, I change my password, changing the password that you give me to my password. So how could I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Well, Luther has put out a video statement explaining everything. And so it's out there.
But I'm saying, just like the Lancet said, stop doing those minor things and actually deal with the major problem of St. Vincent and Grenadines.
All right.
Which is, yeah.
All right. Thanks for calling. Okay. I just missed. Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
There's Antigua has election this Thursday coming. There's a person from Dominica who was originally born in Dominica that's running in for the UPP. And they had a previous candidate, Assad Michael, now who died. And he was in Parliament for 20 years. He's born in Guadeloupe. We know of Edward Siaga. He was born in Boston. Janet Jagan of Guyana.
What is the point you're trying to make? What is the point you're trying to make?
And also David Thompson.
Yeah, but what is the point you're trying to make by giving us those? Are you there?
And also John Compton was
yes,
born
my
in
friend. But what is the point you're making? What is that point? He's gone. My friend, we have something called the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Constitution. That's what we have. And no matter what you say or whose names you call, is that is the highest law of our land, our constitution. That governs everything else. All law must be obedient to the constitution. So I am not sure why you're calling those names, I suspect, but you didn't make yourself clear. But please know that our constitution is different from Grenada, from Dominica, from some of the sections, some of the clauses may be different, but in our constitution, I invite you to go and put it down from the internet. It's on the internet. Put it down, and you read section 38, subsection 3, and then you come back and make a call and explain yourself. All right? Thanks for calling anyway. Pijan, just about it for us.
Interesting program.
As always.
As usual.
Yes. And this has become my favorite. My favorite in this. Oh, there's another call. Let's take this one quickly. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
So St. Vincent make your own law?
Well, you're right. St. Vincent has his own law. You're correct. So I hope, my friend, whoever you are, I hope you can go on the internet and download for your own reading and understanding the St. Vincent and Grenadines Constitution, which was put in place since 1979. That's what we are guided by. So you go on the internet and download it. Just type in SVG Constitution and it will come down on your device, whether it's phone or laptop or desktop, whichever. Actually, I want to give thanks to Dexter, my friend and colleague Dexter Rose. He sent this earlier today. He sent the exact section to us, but I haven't opened them because my practice is not to open things that come like this. But yes, I want to give thanks to Dexter. And he has sent this section. So you can do the same thing, my friend, whoever you are. All those persons who have questions, please go to the internet, download the document, SVG Constitution, and pay particular attention. Read carefully and slowly, and make sure you understand it. Section 38, subsection 3. of that of our constitution. All right, I see other people trying to send messages, but I think we have basically come to the end of our program for today. And I just want to thank all those persons who have contributed, particularly and especially friend and comrade Lansford Weeks. We always look forward to his contribution because it's so enlightening. So thank you, Lansford, and all the other persons who have called in to make their contribution. I want to thank the management of Star FM and Governor Radio for joining with us on the broadcast as usual. And the technical staff here, thank both Karen and Rajiv to having assisted us today. And Pigeon, as usual, I want to just go out with what has become my favorite tune for this period.
But the goodness of Jaja, I adore it forever.
It's not really, that one is not really my favorite, but I'll take that one. Yes. All right, so it's over to Rajiv. He's here with us this morning. So, Rajiv, it's over to you.
And soul of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. WEFM is SVG.